You know, in the high-stakes world of AI, speed is pretty much everything. But what happens when that relentless drive for an edge crosses the line into a massive, full-blown criminal conspiracy? Today, we're diving deep into an indictment that honestly reads like a Hollywood script, starring a tech giant, $2.5 billion, and a plot to smuggle the world's most powerful technology. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so picture this. It's March 19th, 2026. The U.S. Attorney's Office unseals an indictment that just sends absolute shockwaves from Wall Street all the way to Silicon Valley. And look, this wasn't just another corporate fine or a slap on the wrist. Nope, this was an accusation of a major criminal enterprise happening at the very highest levels of the tech industry.
And right at the center of it all is this just breathtaking number, $2.5 billion. That's the alleged value of the restricted American AI technology that was smuggled out of the country. And we're talking about tech that's restricted for very serious national security reasons. So this wasn't just a few misplaced chips, this was an industrial-scale operation. Now, the Department of Justice, they did not mince words here. They flat out called it a brazen conspiracy. They laid out these incredibly convoluted schemes, all designed, they say, to hide the true final destination of some of the most powerful computing tech on the entire planet.
So, who was supposedly behind this whole elaborate scheme? Well, the indictment points to three key people, all connected to the server giant Supermicro. You've got the company's co-founder, Wally Liaw, a sales manager over in Taiwan, Stephen Chang, and a contractor named Willie's son. Now, the company itself wasn't charged, but let's be real, having your co-founder at the center of a criminal conspiracy like this, that is a massive, massive red flag.
Okay, so let's get into the how, because the sheer sophistication of this alleged plot is pretty wild. This was so much more than just, mislabeling a box. Prosecutors have detailed this multi-layered international operation that was designed to bypass every single checkpoint and control along the way. To hide where they were really going, these servers went on this crazy, winding, international journey. It all allegedly started right here in the US, with servers packed full of those restricted Nvidia GPUs. The graphics processing units that are basically the engines of all modern AI. From there, they were routed through Taiwan, then shuffled across Southeast Asia, repackaged in completely unmarked boxes, and finally smuggled into mainland China, all to get around US export laws.
And the tactics they supposedly used to pull this off? It is straight out of a movie. To fool inspectors, thousands of non-working dummy servers were allegedly staged in warehouses, while the real, high-powered machines were already on their way. To get through compliance checks, they reportedly duplicated serial numbers on the chips. To get internal sign-offs, they created phony paperwork. And get this, they even allegedly coordinated with a friendly auditor to make sure they wouldn't get too much scrutiny.
The pace of this whole operation was just staggering. In just a 3-week period in 2025, the scheme allegedly pulled in over $500 million in sales. Let that sink in. $500 million worth of restricted tech diverted in less than a single month.
Now, for anyone who's been following this company closely, this whole indictment might feel like a really troubling case of déjà vu. Because when you actually look at Supermicro's history with U.S. export controls, a pattern starts to emerge that makes this whole thing even more alarming.
Let's rewind the clock way back to 2006. Supermicro pleaded guilty to illegally exporting motherboards to Iran. That violation resulted in a $150,000 fine. Okay, now fast forward 2 decades. A co-founder is at the center of a $2.5 billion smuggling scheme. The scale is astronomically different, but the alleged crime, getting around U.S. export laws, is exactly the same.
Bernstein analyst Mark Newman really put it bluntly, saying this whole thing raises serious credibility issues. And you can see why. For investors, this history makes it so much harder to just believe this was the work of a few rogue employees. It really suggests a potential systemic problem with governance and oversight at the company.
So, how did the market react to all this? Well, exactly how you'd expect. Not well. The financial fallout was immediate, it was severe, and it signaled some really deep investor concern over the company's future.
In the trading session right after the news broke, Supermicro stock just plummeted. It fell by as much as 29%. This wiped out nearly $1 billion in market value, just gone. It just shows this profound uncertainty about the company's governance and, the potential for some absolutely devastating business disruptions. And that right there brings us to the single most critical question hanging over Supermicro right now. Will their most important partner, Nvidia, be forced to cut off their supply of GPUs? I mean, their entire business model really depends on the answer to that question.
To really get the risk here, you have to look at the relationship between these two companies. Sure, Supermicro is a pretty big customer for Nvidia. They account for about 9% of their revenue. But for Supermicro, Nvidia is everything. It's their lifeblood. Without their cutting-edge GPUs, the company's AI server business essentially just stops. The dependency is almost total, and losing that supply chain would be catastrophic.
So let's zoom out for a second, because this case is not just about one company. It is a crystal clear signal from the US government that it is cracking down hard on the entire AI supply chain. The rules of the game for exporting high-end tech are changing for everyone.
The federal agency that's really leading this crackdown is the Bureau of Industry and Security, or BIS for short. And in response to schemes just like this one, they've issued brand new guidance that has put the entire tech industry on high alert.
So what does this new alert level actually look like? Well, the BIS has laid out this whole list of red flags. Things like, is a new customer suddenly ordering huge amounts of advanced AI chips? That's a red flag. Is the final delivery address kind of vague? Red flag. Is the shipment going to a logistics company instead of an actual electronics firm? Another red flag. Does the data center they claim it's going to even have the power and cooling to run these incredibly powerful servers? If not, you guessed it, red flag. This is a fundamental shift, and it's forcing the entire tech sector to be way more proactive about who they sell to.
And all of this brings us right back to where we started. In this global AI arms race, yeah, advanced chips are the ultimate currency. But what this indictment really shows is that the true foundation of this entire industry is trust. And when that trust is broken on a multi-billion-dollar scale, the price isn't just measured in stock value, it's measured in national security.